Not a lot of hard contact, except the home run by Carlos Santana. But the Brewers did have their 4-game winning streak come to an end. We're going to talk about all that coming up next. Adrian Houser wasn't bad on the hill. Could have used some help from his defense as well. All that next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, it's always disappointing when, it takes some time off and you stay up late and you watch the game and you got to get up early the next morning for work, get up at 5, 4, some of you guys, and you watch a game like last night. Not a lot of substance to that Brewer game. A 6-2 loss in Los Angeles. Adrian Houser wasn't bad. Could have used some offense behind him. Some light contact by the Dodgers did him in. We'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. My name is Chuck Freeman. Thank you, everybody. After that late night, downloading us here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Talking Brewers baseball with you, whether it's late night, cutting the Locked On Brewers, or getting up early in the morning, whatever's the case. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major platforms, all of them. Download us. And of course, if you still want to catch the reuniting of Chuck and Winkler, that's up as well. Some of you might have missed it. Chuck and Winkler, we were on WSSP for a number of years. Well, we haven't been on the air together for the last 3, but we reunited. He was on my podcast, Locked On Brewers, and we talk Brewer baseball. So you can download. That one is still up. Whether you go to your various platforms to download the audio, or you can always go to YouTube. Go to YouTube, Locked On Brewers. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that little bell there. That's going to drop you every time. That's going to alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers. Thank you, everybody. All you everydayers out there for joining me here on Locked On Brewers. You do every day. And you follow me on Twitter, Chuck Freeman, Freimund. Disappointing that the Brewers couldn't get anything going offensively. Not surprising. At one point, Bobby Miller, the Dodger pitcher, who is at times throwing 100, set down 18 Brewers in a row. Yet it was a 1-1 game going into the 6th inning. 1-1 game, and Adrian Houser got out of some jams. The Brewer starter, I thought, we got a lot out of him. I thought he was really good. And then there was a 1-out error by Andrew Monasterio over at third. And that opened the floodgates for the Dodgers to score 5 runs. Most of those base hits, let's face it, light contact. I'm going to tell it like it is. Yeah, I tell you, if you didn't watch the game, I tell you, if, Houser and Hobie Miller got rocked, they didn't get rocked. Little bloopers left field, little hit them where they ain't singles. And that was it. There weren't hard blasts all around the diamond. They kind of nickel and dimed the Milwaukee Brewers, but hey, they did what they had to do to win the game. They scored 5 in the 6th inning. Brewers got down 6-1. Carlos Santana, the highlight of the night, hitting a 442-foot blast that nearly cleared the seats in left field at Dodger Stadium. I mean, it was a heck of a blast. It was fun to watch, but that was it. Santana homered, and the Brewers lost. But yeah, Houser and Milner charged with the runs. Houser's going to get the loss. Would have been great if they would have been able to bail back and rally and win this game, or score some early runs. But they did score one early run. They scored the 1st inning, but then that was it. Not until later on in the game when Santana hit his 442-foot blast. That was so majestic. That was one of my favorite home runs of the year, even though it came in a loss. It was just beautiful to watch. But death by 1,000 paper cuts. The Dodgers beat the Brewers 6-2, that 5-run 6th inning. The good news here, the Cubs and Reds both lose, so the Brewers stay 3.5 games ahead of both of those teams. There wasn't a lot of guts to this game. Andrew Monasterio's error really opened up the floodgates. And I think the defense, well, we know it. The defense has been terrific for the most part this year, but I feel like it's had some holes in the last month that have cost the team a couple of games. And on a team that doesn't hit and relies solely on pitching and defense, well, your offense is not going to be able to cover up for those mistakes. I mean, you can go back at several games here in the last month, and I feel like it's games like on the road where they've lost, where, an error here and there. But again, that gets covered up if they're hitting the baseball. All right. But it's usually like in a close game. I feel like Monasterio had that throwing error last month. I want to say it was late last month. Carlos Santana had an error in that same game at first base. So they've had some muffs. Canna had that error last homestand in the 10th inning, but he made up with it when they beat Colorado and took 2 or 3 from them on a Wednesday afternoon. But yeah, the defense is not as great as it was early in the year because it was so terrific through the first half of the season, through about the All-Star break. It gets magnified when you don't score any runs. And the Brewers scored some early runs, got some offense. Maybe we're not talking about Monasterio's error, but it was a big error, and it opened the floodgates for the 5-run 6th inning. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We return here, talk about Garrett Mitchell. Brewers put a pitcher on injured reserve. All that coming up here in a little bit. Locked On Brewers and Sirius XM, the Brewers and Dodgers coming up on Wednesday night. Game 2 of the series. All 3 of these games in Los Angeles, 9:10 with that first pitch. You get it on Sirius XM, the SXM app. Search Brewers, and you're going to get Brewer baseball all day long, anytime you want it, on Sirius XM when there's a game. And very cool. So, and all you everydayers out there, thank you for following me along on the podcast. Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to tell you about a new sponsor here on Locked On Brewers. It's called Bunches. Bunches is the place where sports fans chat. Locked On MLB Group Chat is on Bunches. You're part of this Locked On Brewers network. Well, go there right now. Connect with other baseball fans. Chat up your favorite team and keep up with the latest MLB news. You got questions, comments on today's episode? Chat about it on Locked On MLB Bunch on Bunches. Chat about your favorite team, and your favorite team is the Milwaukee Brewers every day. Tell a personal story about your experience. You can do a bunch of different things on Bunches. Download the Bunches app today. And when you do, our friends at Bunches have featured the Locked On MLB Bunch in the Discover tab. You can also click on the link in the description /notes, show notes, to join Locked On MLB Bunch in the community today. So that's Locked On MLB in Bunches. But download the app. Go there. People are talking Brewers baseball. Go on Locked On. Go to Bunches. Download the app, and you're going to be able to just go ahead and share your opinion about the Milwaukee Brewers on our favorite team. It's a new app. Bunches is a new app built just for sports fans where you could chat in real time. Click the link in the show notes /description to join the app, or go to the Apple Store. Download Bunches right now in the Apple App Store. I'm telling you, you're going to love the conversations with other Locked On sports fans in Bunches. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll tell you about the injury report. And, we're going to get into a little update on Garrett Mitchell. That's next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. 6-2 losers in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. Thank you, everydayers, for joining me, whether you're joining us in the middle of the night as I'm recording this after the Brewers lost in Los Angeles. A nifty, quick game, though, 2 hours and 10 minutes. So it was 11 o'clock hour when this game was put to bed. But no extra innings tonight. Would have been great if the Brewers would have rallied. But again, a 5-run 6th inning did them in on a lot of light contact from the Dodgers. All right, injury update. J.C. Mejia goes on the injured list, shoulder inflammation. He had a bad outing in his last outing. gave up 3 runs in the 9th inning. The Brewers had a 7-0 lead this past weekend, and he gave up a 3-run 9th. It didn't cost him the game, but now he goes on the injured list. Trevor McGill is called up from AAA. I feel like he's been up here and up and down 15 times between here in Nashville. Garrett Mitchell, according to Adam McKelvey, he's hearing that Garrett Mitchell, there's a chance he could play later on in the year. Again, Adam, a reliable guy, could play. He's going to be back in Milwaukee, getting things looked at with the shoulder, but there is a door possibly opening for Garrett Mitchell. So, but you're talking about a guy who's coming back after missing most of the season with a shoulder injury. All right. I would say Garrett Mitchell running the base paths as a pinch runner would be great late in the year and in the postseason because he's very, very fast, as we remember. But would I expect Garrett Mitchell to come back late in the season and be a big time contributor? No, not at all. And he would spell, where would you put him? He's going to be the eventual starter on this team, but you're not going to move Frelick anywhere. And I guess he would replace Joey Weimer in center field. Weimer, they're throwing him out there every day, whether he's hitting 207 or not. So yeah, I guess Mitchell would play center field, but I guess Weimer would go to the bench. But again, that's a long ways from happening, Garrett Mitchell, if it does happen toward the end of the year. He's got a long, long road yet to return. Aaron Ashby going to throw some bullpens. He's got a few hurdles to climb anyway. Now, Ashby, who would be a starter on this team, but he's not replacing the first 4 guys in this rotation. And Adrian Houser pitched well enough to earn himself a spot. If Ashby does come back, I believe he'd probably work on the bullpen, at least for the rest of this year, then come back next year for camp. But yeah, there's a possibility that Aaron Ashby could be returning to this team. But again, I don't see Ashby start. This is just from me saying this. I don't see Ashby starting in that rotation, probably coming out of the bullpen, especially coming off his injury. So Ashby and Mitchell, when they're both added to this team, Mitchell's role, I could see him as a pitch runner. I would definitely like to see him do that at least. And then Ashby working on the bullpen, because let's face it, he's not starting in ahead of any of those 4. And I'm hoping by September, we can get down to a 4-man rotation. I'm hoping, it doesn't seem like it's the case that way in Major League Baseball. The Brewers had a 6-man rotation earlier this year. So, but, if we're trying to clinch pennants, clinch a division title in September, I love a 4-man rotation because I want Burns and Freddie and Woodruff pitching as much as possible in September and in the postseason. And Ashby working out of the pen, Houser working out of the pen would be great for me. But JC Mejia once again put on the injured list. We'll talk about the upcoming game against the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw on the hill. I did some little research there. The Brewers' record against Clayton Kershaw, not as bad as we think. I was surprised to see this. We'll talk about that coming up here in a little bit. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And that's why with eBay Motors can give you the perfect fit for your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage. Look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. When you shop eBay Motors with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. That's eBay Motors. I'm Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers. Thank you, everybody, for joining me each and every day here on Locked On Brewers. Google, Spotify, Apple. We're on all the major downloads. You get us on all those. I list them on my Twitter account, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND. And go to our YouTube page. You get there by going to search, look for Locked On Brewers. I will pop up, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on Locked On Brewers, which is Monday through Friday. And the Brewers take on the Dodgers in the second game of that series coming up on Wednesday night, 9:10 with that first pitch. 9:10 with that first pitch. Get it on SiriusXM, the SXM app. Search Brewers, or you can get all 162 of Brewers baseball. All right, we come back. We'll tell you about Jake Mezorowski, who's just lighting it up in Biloxi. Wherever this guy goes, he's making heads turn, and he's blowing it by people too. We'll talk about that and Wednesday starters. That's next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. I'm your host, Chuck Freeman. Thank you, everybody, for downloading us and staying up either late night or early in the morning or driving us around. I hear from you guys all the time. See you at the ballpark. I was out at a stadium opening today, a high school stadium opening earlier in the night at Fond du Lac High School. I ran into people who said, Locked On Brewers. I said, you got it, player. Thank you very much. Thank you, all your everydayers, for following us on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Jacob Mezorowski, 12 strikeouts, 6 innings for Biloxi tonight at 96 pitches. 6 innings, career high, 12 Ks. Wow, just a fast riser. And, of course, he has been on 3 different levels of the Brewers minor league system this year, and Biloxi right now. And he looks like when he's throwing 100, he's going to be moving up very soon. I mean, I could see him in camp and winning a spot on this roster next year. Imagine having Mezorowski and Uribe throwing $100 bullets out of the bullpen. How about that? Add that to Piamps and David Williams and Baguero. Wow. It could be really something. You have a surplus if you want to make some trades. But who would you trade? I mean, I like all of them. Even Baguero, even though he struggled. But wow, Mezorowski is fast rising in the Brewer minor league system, and the 12 Ks on Tuesday night. All right, the second game of the series against the Dodgers. I did some research on Clayton Kershaw, and I was like, oh, Clayton Kershaw again? God, we can never beat this guy. But I looked, he's only 7-5 lifetime against the Brewers. That can't be right. I tried 2 different sites. 7-5. He did beat the Brewers earlier this year, back on May 10th at AmFam Field. 7 innings on 8 Ks. Recently was on the injured list, came off. He has pitched an outing. He pitched against Colorado last week. But he'll pitch against the Brewers. Combination here. Just seems like the Brewers don't hit. I feel like Clayton Kershaw is like 20-0 against the Brewers. Where have they beaten him? I mean, off the top of my mind, usually I can think of these things. God, I can't think of any time that they've beaten Clayton Kershaw. Couldn't do it in the postseason in 2018. But left-hander, and the Brewers are not good against left-handers. Clayton Kershaw. Okay. Well, bad combination. Clayton Kershaw, the Brewers don't hit lefties, and the Brewers sometimes don't hit anybody. Wade Miley takes the hill for the Brewers, and Wade Miley, the weak link of the first 4 of that rotation. Imagine that. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because Wade Miley is nobody's weak link. He is having a real good year. Coming off the injured list, he's still been strong. Wade Miley will give Clayton Kershaw a battle coming up on Wednesday. Let's get them some offense, please. Kershaw, by the way, this year, 10-4, a 2.51 earned run average in 17 starts. All right, Kershaw and Miley. Let's wind it up and finish up this 2-game series before heading on to Texas. I said yesterday and the day before, just don't get swept. I know the Reds and the Cubs lost. But I look at it that the Brewers didn't take advantage of an opportunity. But, they lost. They had their 4-game winning streak come to an end. They swept the White Sox this weekend. You just can't go into a loss. Bill Michaels, the Bill Michaels Show. I'm on that statewide show in Wisconsin, Monday through Friday. I'm sorry. He's on Monday through Friday, middays. I'm with him 12:30 on Tuesdays, talking Brewer baseball with him. And I appreciate him having me on. He said, do you think the Brewers will get on a little bit of win streak here? They won 4 in a row. I said, Bill, with these guys, you just don't know. With these guys, they're a hard team to figure out. One day they can score 14 runs. Next 3 days, nothing. Battle back. They're 8-4 in extra inning games. Sometimes they just can't get out of their own way offensively. So I don't know. So he said, could they build an 8-game winning streak? This is a team offensively just is not as good enough to get an 8-game winning streak unless everything goes right. And, the only thing that seems to go right for the Brewers is their pitching and most times their bullpen, because offensively they are very, as we know, inconsistent. But another chance coming up on Wednesday night. I know I was really positive after the game on Sunday, and somebody tweeted at me, said, Freems, I'm looking forward to the Dodgers series because I know you're going to be right back and throwing them right in the gutter. I'm not throwing them in the gutter. I'm just telling you like it is. Not a lot of offense. Houser, I thought, pitched well enough to win. As much as I want him to keep pitching out of the bullpen, out of that 5th spot in the rotation, he's been doing a nice job. Better than I expected. Better than I expected this year. He's stepped to the bucket a few times. Last game, he only went 5 innings, gave up 4 runs. But, you just hope to win a game when Houser pitches like that. But an error really just opened that whole 6th inning up for the Dodgers. All right, everybody. The game against the Dodgers coming up on Wednesday night and Thursday's game, both 9:10 with the broadcast on Sirius XM. Download on the Sirius XM app. When you download that, put search Brewers, and that'll turn up Brewer baseball. And as I've always told you, Sirius XM, man, late night on home Brewer games, getting out of the ballpark and putting Sirius on, Sirius XM, and listening to like the Dodgers or the Angels. Boy, that's a calming feeling driving down 94, heading home after a long night at the ballpark. So we'll talk to you all after the game tomorrow night, everybody. One loss. Let's not get too down. We've seen it before. Hopefully they can crack Kershaw. Miley, is going to give him a strong one. And got to put some offensive, got to put some runs on the board. And you got to play a perfect game defensively too. Can't make any mistakes, and you cannot give them any runs with Kershaw on the hill. We'll talk to you after tomorrow night's game, everybody. I'm Chuck Freeman, Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. So long, everybody.